Hey guys, today we're talking about product descriptions. With product descriptions, they are your salespeople in print. Now you either have the Wolf of Wall Street selling your products, or you have a complete novice that can't even sell water to a dehydrated hiker in the Sahara Desert. Which one of those two do you want? The power of product descriptions is often underestimated. People do not spend as much time as they should on them, and therefore they pay the price in terms of lower ROAS, lower conversion rates, lower revenue, harder to scale. I mean, there's so many problems with having terrible product descriptions. But in this video, I'm going to go through a proven template on how to produce highly persuasive product descriptions. For instance, I'm going to go through this horse's head here. This horse's head was purchased for 99 cents. It's ceramic, it's chipped, it's terrible, but it sold for $62.95, over 6,000% return on investment. And the only difference was the product description, the power of story. And I'm going to show you exactly how you can take some of the principles and elements of this experiment and many more experiments and implement them into your own product descriptions. Furthermore, I'm going to show you the how, and I'm going to show you examples. So let's wander off back to my computer and we'll get stuck into product descriptions. So here we are at my computer. Now, what I want to do is first show you an example of the return that you can get and the improvement that you can get from improving your product descriptions. For instance, here's a test that concluded very recently for a client of mine where I rewrote the product description, right? So we had just over 1,500 visitors. We had a revenue per session generated for the original of just under $12 and just over $27 for the variant. A monumental difference. So like this changes like everything for these guys in terms of scalability, profitability, the ability to generate revenue. I mean, it's just a monumental change. And the way that I went about changing this specific product description is entailed in this video. So I'm going to go through the exact process that I undertook in order to get this huge win. But if you're in e-commerce, no doubt the easiest way to improve your product descriptions or the success of your e-commerce store is to like and to subscribe to this video. As a bit of a joke, but in all seriousness, it actually does help me in the channel, and obviously you'll be notified when I release new content that can help you improve conversion rates, your Google ads and your Facebook ads. But enough of the plug of subscribing and liking the video, let's just jump straight in. So when it comes to writing good product descriptions, it comes down to research. I know this is not the glamorous side and no one wants to do it, but it's where the money is. It's non-negotiable. It's exactly where the money is. If you skip on this part, don't worry about the rest of the video. I know that hurts my viewership and stuff like that, but I cannot stress that enough. Put in the time for your research, spend time sharpening the axe, and you will cut the tree down far more quickly, but you'll also get a better end result. So when it comes down to knowing your customers and talking like your customers, it's important to know what they want, how they want it, and when they want it. So that's really important. Are there topical events around when they want your certain product? Can you leverage that in a certain way? Can you speak to that in a certain way? What do they actually want from your product in terms of features? They don't want features, they want the benefit, they want the result of the feature. And how do they like it? So how can you present it? There's many different facets in which these three questions, if you were to look at them like that, can be presented to a product. But I don't know what you're selling, but you need to think about these three elements in relation to your product descriptions. Moving forward, I cannot stress this enough, and I've emphasized it in 2 bullet points. You're not selling to everyone. You're selling to your most ideal prospects. So if you become a jack of all trades, you're a master of none. It's very much horses for courses. So pick out your ideal customer. Create an avatar. Understand who they are, how they speak. Speak like them. Speak to them as an individual, not as a group. And you'll see tremendous success with your product descriptions in terms of increased ROAS, conversion rates, etc. Really important. I see so many people speaking to the general public in terms of their product descriptions, and the results absolutely stink. So spend time getting to understand your customers. Speak to them on the phone. What kind of questions do they have, etc. And we'll get to objections and stuff like that a little bit later. But you can mine product data and language data and overall emotional feel, etc., around the product through Reddit, Amazon, eBay, etc. Those big kind of aggregated stores where there's tons of reviews. Mine those reviews, get comments, get individual feedback. Reddit can be really good because generally they're a little bit longer in their detail, but not always, but sometimes. So spend the time in understanding your customers. You'll be able to speak to them better. Don't forget that you want to understand how they came to your site, but also how they come to a decision around purchasing from you as one element, but also purchasing your product as a second element. So why did they pick you? Especially if you're selling something that other stores have. Why you, or why not you? So if you can get in contact with people that didn't purchase from you, such as your abandoned cart people, why didn't they purchase from you? Was it price? Rarely is it price, but sometimes it is. Mostly if you can increase your perceived value, and as always, an alarm. So in relation to that, my alarm has just hijacked my train of thought, but in relation to that, it's understanding those two elements. Why did they purchase from you, and why are they purchasing your product? What is their decision-making processes are in and around that? And lastly, remember, you're not selling to everyone. Really strong point there. Get to the point really quickly. Don't be too much fluff. I know I have a little bit of fluff in my videos, but I'm just trying to get as much of the why over to the principles that I'm trying to convey to you as I possibly can, so you have a better understanding so that you can implement these changes into your business. So I know I'm justifying my fluff, but you don't want fluff in product descriptions. Users usually skim, so be very mindful of that and make sure your content is laid out in a skimmable way. So subheadlines, short paragraphs, short sentences, etc. People read the start of content more than the middle and the end. That's obvious. So make sure that you have your most powerful and attention-grabbing stuff at the start of your descriptions and headlines, and don't save the best to last, because there will be no last. They won't get there. Further to that, I mean, most people in the copywriting world know David Ogilvy. He's passed away now, but he ran one of the biggest advertising companies in the world. A very, very successful copywriter, and he wrote a couple of books as well, which I urge everyone to read if you're in the world of marketing or business. But he wrote a little quote here, or I pulled this little quote from a memo that he had in a memo that went out to all his employees. And essentially, use short words. Don't try and act more intelligent than you need to be. Very, very simple. You're writing to a 12-year-old. That's what I envisage when I'm writing for someone. So what I like to do when I'm writing product description is, who am I writing to? Who's the ideal prospect? Do I know any friends or family that is applicable? I write to them as a 12-year-old. That's how I like, and as an individual, not as a group. That's really important. Use short sentences, use short paragraphs. It's kind of like successes. Short paragraphs, short sentences are easy to consume. And once you've consumed a paragraph, it's like that little bit of like success. Hey, I finished the paragraph, move on to the next one. It just makes it easier for that snowball to start rolling down the hill. So be simple, get to the point, and be short in terms of paragraphs. Content can be long, but still be mindful of the three principles: small words, short sentences, short paragraphs. Long copy does sell. The more you tell, the more you sell, and length implies strength. I like those two principles, and I'll get onto those a little bit further in the video. But a good example of this is this next product page. So these guys are getting to the point really quickly. A clear headline. We've got a clear number of reviews, and then we've got a quick, short sentence that describes the product, and then we've got bullet points that are easily read, easy to consume, easy to skim about the product. And this is price justification in a way. So you imagine, what do I need to know in order to pay $47.94 for this product? This will help a great deal, right? There's further content down below, but I'm going to touch upon that kind of stuff a little bit later. But this is like a really nice layout in order to get what you want in a quick way to your prospect, in order for them to qualify themselves in or out of this product. So this is a really good example. A nice layout. It's clean, a lot of white space, makes it easy for people to gravitate to the areas of where this e-commerce client wants them to focus on. So this slide's a bit boring, but so I'm just going to talk my way through it really quickly. There was an experiment that involved that horse's head that I showed you at the start, where they purchased that horse's head for 99 cents and they sold for $62.95, if I can talk properly today. It was called the Significant Projects experiment. Two guys called Robert Walker and Joshua Glenn conducted the experiment. They purchased things from thrift stores. The average price was $1.25. Now what they did was they wrote personal stories to associate with the products to see how that would influence the perceived value and therefore retail value of the products. They purchased 100 products and they all sold for over they brought in almost $8,000 in revenue. Hugely powerful. Now what you can do with this is pull this principle and apply it to your own products. Can you incorporate story? Is it the manufacturing or development process of your product? Is it customer testimonials? Is it your own story? Etc., etc. I like to start with the framework of using a testimonial based story. So if I speak to a customer, get their story, but then frame it as if the prospect was living the story. So I start with the word imagine. So, imagine if you're driving down the road doing 60 miles an hour, but you couldn't hear a thing. It was so quiet, etc. I'm starting like an ad for a vehicle, right? I might have pulled that from a testimonial, but that's how I could start the product description in a way. So there's horses for courses, and I know I've said that too before in relation to how this principle can be applied per product, but there's definitely always a story that can be associated. I mean, a ceramic horse head that's chipped, used, and looks awful. I mean, they've painted a story for that, and it was wildly successful, improving the return on investment by 6,200 odd %. That's the power of story. We don't remember facts as well, but we remember stories. Stories are also far more persuasive because they are more more remembered. They're more comprehended as well. So like we find it very hard to comprehend numbers and associate that and apply that to our own lives. But stories, we can put ourselves in the place of the protagonist, for example. So use stories whenever you can. So here we are with objections and questions about the product. Now, prevention is better than cure. There's no doubt about that. So can you prevent the objections from derailing your ability or that particular prospect from purchasing your product? Yes, you can. Now, what fears do people have in and around purchasing from you as a company or you or your product? What uncertainties do they have? How can you take them away within communicating with them through text, product descriptions, etc.? And it's actually your job to take away these doubts and uncertainties, etc. And a rough rule of thumb is that the more complex your product is or the more expensive it is, the more that you're going to have to tell or reduce that level of friction for that prospect in order for them to purchase your product. So it's a pretty good rule of thumb. Or another kind of aspect to that portion is that if your product is not well known, so it could be cheap, but it's not understood or it's not well known, that will need a higher level of text in terms of detail and in order for people to know enough in order to make a purchase. So that probably was not the most succinct way for me to explain that. But again, the more you tell, the more you sell. Length implies strength. The more complex or less known that your product is, the more that you're going to have to tell in order for the person to be able to know enough in order to make a decision. And just referring quickly back to research, the more time you spend on the research phase, the more you'll be able to handle objections that are common in and around your product and your industry. Really important stuff. So make sure you don't neglect that side. Let's just jump over to a very good example of a company selling a pretty mundane product in terms of mattresses and pillows and like bedding related stuff, and how they approach their product descriptions and product pages in order to handle objections. So here we are with, I think they're called Purple now, but they were called Purple Mattresses, but who cares what they're called, I suppose. But so what we have here is headline, a product description that's probably could be a tiny bit smaller, but it's jam-packed. You can pause the video and read that if you wish, but it's ultra benefit and feature specific. As we slide down though, we've got this little right slider that follows us down, but as we come down, we see not real long copy, but the page is long because there's huge amounts of visual elements associated with this. So everything works in perfect harmony. I looked at this earlier. It kind of restates a couple of things twice, but repetition can be powerful. So But as we get into objections or features and benefits, kind of like covering two topics at the one time, is stay cool at night. So if you've ever had that, your head gets hot, you flip the pillow kind of thing, potentially you don't have to do that with this pillow because it has continuous airflow, etc. And they talk about both the features. It has 1500 open air channels to keep your head cool at night. So very much talking about the feature and how that feature benefits your life. Life, I suppose, but sleep, however you want to put that. Again, we come down to no pressure support. So they're talking about like support of the head and neck. So they've got no pressure support, and they've got this hex, kind of like grid hex technology. Kind of that's the feature. It's not really explained all that well in terms of the name, but what it adapts to your head and neck and posture, etc., to give you the correct amount of support so you can get a good night's sleep. And also they're demonstrating it in kind of like an enthusiastic, happy kind of way. As we come down, it doesn't fall flat. So if you're buying a new pillow, it could be because it's flat, but potentially this one never goes flat. So they're tackling some of the common benefits and also objections through a pretty seamless and clear structure that's easily scannable. So like if we just roll through, the headlines give us exactly what we need to know without actually reading the text, but the text actually gives us a better level of detail, a more granular form of detail. And as we come through, again, all the three major benefits are rehashed in a slightly different way. So it's repetitive because if people are skimming, they're not comprehending as well as they could be if they are reading. So that's why we see a couple of duplications in terms of content here and up here and stuff. But overall, a very good landing page. These guys test like maniacs, and this is a very good template. But they know what to say because they've done the research. Just to harp back on that research point again. So one of the most common aspects is how long does content need to be? And it needs to be long enough to get what you need to get across to your prospect for them to understand and know what they need to know in order to make a decision. So it's all different, and I spoke about that loosely in terms of complexity and price and how that impacts or can impact like the amount of information that you need to get across to a prospect. But this is a soap. It looks like one of the old like cartridges for the gaming consoles, but it's actually a soap. And we see here a very small description of the soap. It's $14 or $15. It's not very expensive, but they also have a longer version of the description here. So you get a better, more detailed explanation of what goes into this soap. So the more you tell, the more you sell. So some people might have enough knowledge or know enough in order to make a purchase from just reading this small description. Some people need to know enough. You need to cater for both segments. So the people that are detailed orientated and the skimmers. Coming into the last one now, and that's credibility and social proof. Gary Benzavenga, a great copywriter. I think probably the greatest ever still living copywriter is he. And he says that proof is the most important element of your marketing. If you have inferior proof, you'll have inferior sales. That's not his direct quote, but that's what the point he's trying to get across. And these are some of the more common and easily leverageable points of credibility and social proof within your website. These are all pretty obvious, so I'm just going to rattle through these pretty quickly. So your website matters. The visual aesthetics. If you're well dressed, you're well presented, people will judge you in a professional manner, and you will get the respect that you portray. Your website is no different. People judge a book by its cover. People will judge your website by its aesthetic look. So pay good attention to that. Visible phone number at all times, address if possible, easy contact information means that you're not trying to hide. Really important, and I always see a conversion lift with that contact information. Don't use stock photography. It stinks. It looks awful. I hate it so much, and it generally hurts conversion rate. Inferior quality product photography that is not stock generally always wins. And obviously it goes without being said, but very good product photography or product video in terms of demonstrating it goes a long way to improving your conversion rates. You want to have visible return and refund policies for obvious reasons. Product demonstration, which I just briefly alluded to, through video or imagery. You can actually do this through text within story or description as well. It's really important. Nothing sells like demonstration. Elijah Otis invented the elevator. Everyone was apprehensive when the elevator was first invented because essentially you're getting in a metal box, you're going up really high. If that box falls, am I going to die? Well, everyone thought, of course I'm going to die. No one's ever seen something like this. That's just an absolute death trap. He erected 2 poles, stuck himself in the elevator, cut the cord, the brakes kicked in, multiple redundancies, elevators boomed like a industry that was like on crack when that demonstration had been seen by many, many people. It proved the success of the product and the safety of the product. So nothing sells like demonstration. The number of purchases, social proof, testimonials and reviews, again, social proof and credibility, case studies. I'll show you an example of a case study in just a moment in how they tie that into their unique mechanism. It's really cool, and it's the only one that I'm going to touch upon because it's always interesting with e-commerce, with case studies, how you can and can't apply them. Security, so like Norton Trust Seals, SSL Trust Seals, etc. Are you safe to purchase from? Expert endorsements, again, doctors, celebrities, not like A-list celebrities, but like industry-related celebrities are important in terms of you can leverage their kind of credibility and associate that with your product. So these are the most common forms of credibility, but let's just touch upon that really cool case study one. So in relation to case studies and e-commerce sites, this is a supplement brand, Algae Cow, and they sell bone density supplements, and they actually have conducted their own research studies. And if we scroll down just a tiny bit, we see a reference to them. Pretty cool, like laid out. Maybe it's not, maybe I've got another tab. Here it is here. So human studies leave no doubt. 3 medical journals have published encouraging results. Nutrition Journal, International Journal of Medical Science, and etc. And you can see the studies. This is a really cool way to prove the legitimacy of your product or demonstrate its value in a very detailed and analytical way. That concludes the video on product descriptions. You should know everything that you need to know in order to write fantastic product descriptions. If you want to have a chat about your e-commerce store or product descriptions specifically, or you want to talk about getting results, very similar to the product description that I mentioned earlier with that 127% increase in revenue per session, feel free to jump over to my website at brandhamel.com. You can just whip down here, click the button, schedule a consultation. You and I can have a chat about Google ads, Facebook ads, product descriptions, email flows, lead magnets, all that kind of fun stuff. It's completely free. We can chat for 10 minutes. We can chat for 90 minutes at no cost to you. We can go through campaigns. I can look at them directly and make comments, etc. With that being said, don't forget to like and to subscribe to this channel and video. I would really appreciate it. And thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.